Welcome back to Sailing El Jaleo. Now today is going to be interesting. We're going to do something we've never done before. We've got natural lighting today. I have a special glow about me this morning, I think. But that's going to be, coming and going as we swing on the hook here. And the other thing is, I have never done the little video in the corner with also the overlay of the navionics, so I don't think my computer will be able to process this. So if you see me wigging out, it might be that way for this video. I might have to do just one or the other for this opening part. So I guess we'll see what happens. Although I think my computer is going to freak out. So anyway, today we're going to bust out of Delaware City. We head out into the Delaware River, and then we head through the C&D Canal, where we make it into the northern Chesapeake Bay. Now the first night we stayed over in Bohemia River, where we ran into some interesting things, let's say. The next day we just hopped over across the river to the, I guess that's not even Bohemia River. What is this? It's, I think it's like Bear River or something like that. Elk River. And I'm not sure exactly where Elk River ends and the bay begins. Maybe it's over here. I'm not 100% sure, but we were in Elk River. We just hopped over to the other side to get out of the wind. And then the next day we headed down to Sassafras River, where we actually went up Sassafras River. I can't talk this morning, to anchor for about a week because we had some bad weather coming in. So I guess we might as well go ahead and get right into it. Grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. Getting out of Delaware City is always a little bit tricky, especially when you have to stop at the fuel dock, like we did on our first morning. So we were going with the current, and that is always a sketchy proposition, especially there. There's not enough room to turn around, and if you're an inept boater like I am, it can make for a little dicey situation. So we were going with the current. We had to pull down into the fuel dock, and Charlie was there to help me out, so it was great. And we got our fuel and got underway. Now, because it was our first trip, of course, I forgot to set up the cameras. Cut me some slack. We hadn't been aboard in 3 months. So it was nice. It would have been nice to have the cameras just because it was an eventful trip. Let's just put it that way. But alas, I forgot to set up the cameras. Now, normally, and this is just a tip for new boaters, if you ever have to dock and there's a strong current, always dock going against the current if you can manage it. Now here I couldn't, just because the channel is so narrow, I couldn't turn around. But like there was one time in Wrightsville Beach where I had to stop to get fuel right on the other side of the Wrightsville Beach Bridge. I was heading southbound, and it's pretty narrow there, but you can turn your boat around, and the current was ripping in the direction I was going, and the fuel dock there at the marina is very short, so I knew if I tried to dock going with the current I was going to hit something. So just let all of the boats, all of the traffic go through the bridge, then you go through last and then do a big wide U-turn. And it's always easier to dock going against the current because you're going a lot slower. The current's not pushing you, so you're going slower. You have maximum water flow across the keel. If you're just trying to crawl along while you're going with the current, you don't have as much steering input just because there's not as much water flow going over the keel or over the rudder. So especially on a full keel boat, you need that maximum steering. So I always try and dock going against the current. So that's just a little tip. So I do have to apologize. I really botched this first video. Coming right out of the gate, I forgot to film leaving Delaware City. We ran into some bad stuff in our first few days, and then I was kind of off my game. And I just didn't set the cameras up. So I do apologize. None of this footage is going to make sense. The first clips you saw were us entering the C&D Canal. I took those with my iPhone. And then now I'm in Sassafras River building a pee platform for the dogs. So, this is a nightmare. It's just none of this is going to line up. But anyway, just let me tell you what happened. I'll turn into my storyteller, and I'll just weave a tale that you'll all enjoy. No, but seriously, and sorry, I have to keep moving this to keep it out of the sun because the sun is shining in here, so I'll have to adjust it a little bit. But anyway, so we left Delaware City, and I knew the wind was going to be bad once we got over to the Chesapeake Bay side. When you're in the canal is, it's a wide canal, but it's, you know, it's protected by trees, and it's pretty narrow. So you don't really have to worry about large waves or anything like that. I knew once we were exiting the C&D Canal, we were going to run into some wind. It was projected to be, I believe it was around 14, 15 knots. It actually ended up being, we were having wind gusts of over 40 miles an hour. So once we got out on the Chesapeake side of the C&D Canal, it was an absolute nightmare. There were 3 to 4 foot waves. The front of the boat was just bouncing up and down. We were pounding into the waves. Every third wave, the bow of the boat would actually submarine and we'd bury it, which makes making progress very difficult. So we were basically just stalled, and for about 3 or 4 minutes we were literally sitting still. We weren't making any forward progress. And when you do that, you start to lose steering, so we were being pushed parallel to the waves, which is very bad because then you start rolling. And in those waves of that height, it's a bad situation. It's very uncomfortable. Crap downstairs goes flying everywhere. It's just not something that you want. So normally I run EJ around 18 to 2,000 RPMs, but I knew we had to get out of there. I had no choice. I kicked her down to about 2,600 RPM, which is a lot higher than I ever run her or push her. She can definitely do it, but I don't like doing it. So, but you know, when you have to, you have to. So we finally, it took us about 2 hours to make the final 2 miles. I knew once we got to the south side of Bohemia River, it's a steep bank that goes up, and there's trees and stuff, so we would be sheltered from the wind. So once we got over there, it was we were sheltered from the wind. So that was nice. At least we got out of that 40-mile-an-hour wind. And there were some people behind us. They actually stopped and talked to me the next day, and I forget their names. I'm so sorry. They often comment on the videos, and please remind me of your names. I'm sorry. I'm just bad with names. So anyway, so they swung by the next day and chatted for a little bit, which was awesome. And so once we got to Bohemia, I went and pulled all the chain out of the locker. And I knew my chain was getting bad, so I actually bought a backup chain, and I had it stored downstairs below the refrigerator in a cubby hole. And when I pulled the chain out of the locker for the first time, it had deteriorated over the summer, and there was just a big pile of rust. Like entire layers of steel were sloughing off the chain. So I'm like, oh, you know, we just got through this crappy start to our trip, and now the chain is falling apart. So I knew I had to swap the chain out, which when you have to anchor and you want to switch your chain out, it's kind of interesting. And you know, so I have 130 feet of chain, and then like 200 or 300 feet of rope beyond that. So normally I can anchor with all chain because you do a 7-to-1 scope. Or a 5-to-1 scope, whatever, you know, that's neither here nor there. So I anchored. I dropped the anchor and I went downstairs, and the chain weighs about 160 pounds for 130 feet of it. So I can't carry that, obviously. So I had to string the chain. I had to pull all the chain out of the locker. I had to string it up to the cockpit, and then I had to pull it strand by strand all the way up to the bow of the boat. And then I could take the shackle off and attach it to my rope road, which is then attached to the boat. So I had to pull up the anchor, and because Rocknas are self-launching anchors, that means the front end is heavy enough that if you let them go, they'll just go in. So I had to tie the anchor off, and then I had to remove the shackles from the anchor to the chain, and then attach the new ones, and then you have to put seizing wire on the shackle so it doesn't unscrew underwater and you lose your anchor. And I had to do all of this while the boat was drifting in a river that has shallow spots. So I had to monitor our position while I was swapping out the chain, changing the shackles, installing the seizing wire, and you know, it made for an interesting end to our day, let's just put it that way. And afterwards I had a cocktail. After spending a night in Bohemia River, we just wanted a day to rest. You know, the trip had started off a little rough, and plus that, you know, that final week when you get back in the water, you get the sails on, you do all of that work, you know, you just load all the crap on the boat. It's just exhausting. and I just wanted a day off. So the blend had been blowing. The wind had been blowing from south to north. So we were sheltered in Bohemia River, but then the wind was going to shift that day to be blowing from west to east. So we just moved across to Elk River to get some more some more protection from the wind. And then the next day we moved on to Sassafras River, and we had never gone up Sassafras River before, but we decided to go up Sassafras because there was a nor'easter coming in, and the wind projections for the following week looked really bad. So we didn't know exactly how long we were going to be in Sassafras River, but we ended up being there for an entire week. The wind that week was just kind of out of control. And you know, we're fair weather sailors, so we don't like sailing when the crew is going to be uncomfortable. So we ended up staying there for a week, and we got a lot of stuff done. You know, it was actually a really nice week. There was a lot of relaxation that went into it. And I built a pee platform for the dogs. I got that finished up, and you saw me make most of that. After I painted it, I did paint the bottom of it the next day, and then I put the grass on top of it. So that turned out really well, and seems to be working pretty good so far. I also installed I did buy a cheap cell phone range extender, and I have the hard part of it installed. I still have the box just sitting up here that I need to find a spot to mount, but I do have the antenna outside, and that is mounted, and the cable is run, which is the hardest part, and it seems to work very well. I'm going to do some more experimenting with that, and maybe just give you an idea of that. It was only like 220 bucks. I know some of them are thousands, and I thought it would be worth it to take a flyer on a cheap one. And we'll see. Wiegand, what are you doing, princess? Okay, all right, I'll be right back. Sorry. Hanwi has been up and down, up and down, up and down all damn day, and it's getting a little annoying. And I'm trying to keep the camera out of the sun here. So I did get that installed. I'll give you more information on that. It seems to work pretty well. It'll be interesting in areas where there is no reception, like Alligator River, if it makes a difference or not. And it was interesting just in Sassafras. So I have two different phones on two different carriers. I did that this year because my phone is how I do everything. I don't have Starlink, so I upload everything, all the videos I upload through my phone. And you know, if I ever, you know, when I go to town in the dinghy, I take my phone with, you know, in case I need to call. And you know, just in case something happens, you always want to have your phone with. So I did buy I bought a new phone like 2 years ago, and I had my old phone, and I thought, you know, nowadays you can buy cell phone plans for dirt cheap. So I bought a Mint Mobile plan on my old phone, which was like $15 a month, just in case I ever lost my primary phone. At least I would be able to communicate with people, and they wouldn't have to call the Coast Guard again like they did my first year. So anyway, but and all of that is just to say that I had zero reception in Sassafras River with my Mint Mobile phone. But when I turned on the cell phone range extender, I actually had 4 bars of LTE. So it seems to work really well. I know there are ways that you can get into the... it's not like anywhere in the settings. You have to... There's something you can do to get in to find out what like your reception rating or the strength of it is. I guess it's measured in like decibels. I have to figure that out, because it'd be interesting just to have some actual data instead of saying I went from 3 bars to 4 bars. I mean, what does that actually mean? I don't know. But so I'm going to look into ways to actually quantify if it does make a difference or not. So, but it seems to work. It seems to at least make some sort of a difference, which is good. So that was a project I got done. I just have to mount the box. We got a lot of stuff put away, and then of course we did a lot of relaxation. So I'll put, yeah, that nor'easter that came through, we were way up at the very top of the bay, so we were pretty well protected. But even up there, we had 20 plus knot winds on a couple of days, so it was nice to be up there with some shelter and not down along the coast. Because, yeah, and you know, I always check the wave projections, and there were 6-foot waves in Chesapeake Bay. and there were 24-foot waves just off of was it Cape May down in Delaware Bay. So it was pretty nasty out there, and I feel sorry for anyone that was offshore when that came through. I mean, everyone obviously knew it was coming, so I would like to think there wouldn't have been any people out there, but you never know. So anyway, it was a great week. I'm gonna end it here just because none of this is lining up. This is a very sloppy, disgusting video. A very muddled composition, as it were. But yeah, it was, the first week was interesting, and we're out here. We're still going. So, all right. See you next week. And that's all we have time for this week. I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I wouldn't make these videos. And my Patreon crew is Joan and Juddy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, Matthew Spotton, Peter Allen, and Natalie Linehan. Thank you guys so very much. Your support really means the world to me. I do have one legacy patron member, and her name is Joan Linbo. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she lives on in our hearts forever. We really miss you, Joan. If you are interested in joining our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below, and that'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up. And there are hundreds, literally hundreds of extra videos and photos of our travels, and I try and keep everything there up to date and post at least once or twice a week, so it gives you a little peek behind the curtain. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That'll help us out more than you'll ever know, and that actually doesn't cost you anything, so hit that like button. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.